to the Fat Talks. Those that are on Twitter, we welcome you. We can see that many have logged in, and we hope you can hear us loud and clear. We are in the Smart 24 studios and also on Twitter Spaces. We're really glad to have you here. So, a brief background is that this is the Fat Talks organized by Fidelis Leadership Institute, and last week we had the one and only Edwin Danze, and he was talking about AI and digital marketing. So this week, we get to have none other than Mr. Shakib Nsubuga. Shakib Nsubuga, you could greet people.
Thank you so much for having me, Brian. My name is Shakib Nsubuga. I'm excited to be a part of this Fat Talks. When you told me I was going to Fat Talks, I was like, hey, what are they saying? But then they told me what it means. And I really appreciate the invite, and I'm honored and excited to be a part of this conversation.
Awesome. Maybe if I could demystify, Fat Talks here is actually talking about faithful, available, and teachable. But before I get into that, allow me to introduce Mr. Shakib Nsubuga. He's an experienced business development executive, a passionate project manager. He has demonstrated a history of working in e-commerce, real estate, agriculture, fintechs, marketing, and advertising sectors. He's a highly developed and enthused community and social service professional, skilled in ideation, business strategy, negotiation, policy analysis, system implementation, and customer service. He also has a keen interest in talent development, people management, and is particularly keen on lead identification for sales training as a growth tool for institutions of all sizes. He will later be telling us the couple of places he has worked. And maybe this is when I get to ask you, Shakib.
Yes.
Who is Shakib, just for purposes of our viewers on Smart 24 and our listeners on the Twitter Spaces?
I think every time someone asks you to reduce yourself to a number of words, it becomes quite difficult. I would like to think that I'm multifaceted, and hopefully I have varied interests and passions. Those are things that you can get to know about me. But I guess I'll describe myself as a Ugandan, identify as a Ugandan. I am my tribe, I'm a Muganda, if that helps anyone.
Yes.
I am, my career, my business work, I'm a business development executive. What does that mean? In layman's terms, I help businesses develop in whatever sense of the matter. So it could be from getting an idea to a startup, getting a startup to proof of concept, getting from proof of concept to scaling. I look at all aspects of business development as areas that I can contribute towards. And I'm really passionate about solving problems. I really like empowering teams. Those are things that really grind my gears. Certain things that really drive my passion.
Yes.
So I guess those are some identifying characteristics of myself. I don't know if you have anything specific that you want to ask about.
Yes, actually, indeed, because I saw a beautiful flyer out there about you, and it was talking about Jumia. Now I know Jumia is a brand name in today's Uganda, and everyone has seen billboards and posters and etc. So what exactly do you do at Jumia?
Currently, I am the head of expansion at Jumia. The expansion team looks at Jumia business outside of Kampala. So what this means is we try and develop the business of Jumia outside of the capital. Why is this important? Because we know that Jumia has been in Uganda for about 10 years.
Yes.
And in these 10 years, we've been able to capture a significant market share within Kampala. But we believe that the growth and the future of Jumia is outside of Kampala. We believe that where the opportunities for growth are outside of Kampala. Simply put, if you look at the population dynamics of the country, Kampala is about 4 million people, and the rest of the country is the rest of the, so 10%, the 90% is outside of Kampala.
Yes.
So if you want to have a significant impact and you want to have a really sustainable business, it's important to look outside of Kampala for that. So what I do, what I've been doing at Jumia is basically I was responsible for setting up this business outside of Kampala through establishing of pickup stations that customers can come collect their orders from Jumia, and also setting up and growing of what we call JFOS, and JFOS is Jumia independent consultants that sell on behalf of Jumia. It's a team of over 20,000 agents, and what they do is they help people who do not have access to the internet or have access to our app to place orders and enjoy the discounts that are available there. So,
wow. Well, clearly Jumia is such a huge network, and when I hear expansion in my mind, I'm thinking, I mean, you've already expanded. You are beyond Kampala, you're beyond Uganda even. I know that you're on the stock exchange somewhere across the world. I think in the US.
In the US, New York Stock Exchange.
So with the recent cities in Kampala, I imagine that your expansion, you're targeting these cities as the first place and not maybe anywhere. So you have an approach. So I wanted to start by asking, what qualities do you believe make an effective leader?
I think that's a very good question. And I think it's a question that not many people stop to think about when they want to either call themselves leaders or step into the leadership role. And I've tried to do a bit of research and looked at my own experiences. And some of these qualities I want to mention, the one that stick out. The first quality is being a good leader. You have to be an effective communicator. So an effective communicator is not only telling people what's going on, but I define effective communication as the ability to receive, synthesize, and output information in a way that is dynamic and allows your audience to understand exactly what you're looking at. So effective communication, in this sense of leadership, is being able to, first of all, listen to what is out there. You have to, I think, effective communication, 80% of communication is active listening. So you have to, as a good leader, you have to be a good listener. You have to be able to take in information from all sorts of sources. You have to be able to synthesize that information, to analyze it, and then to output that information in the best way. The way that you speak to a senior manager might be very different from the way that you speak to an intern because of the experience levels that they have. The way that you speak to your directors must be different from the way that you speak to shareholders. So it might be the same piece of information, but an effective communicator knows exactly what is important for each particular part of the audience. So that's one particular, I think, aspect of leadership that is really important, and one quality that is outstanding for me. The second that I can share on is collaborator.
Yeah, but maybe before you go to the second, just about communication, because remember our topic today is to do with the different leadership approaches. And speaking of communication, I know that at Jumia you probably have a bunch of young people, and the millennials have become very, very difficult to communicate. And I wanted to know how exactly, if you could give us an example of how you explain or how you give them a target, the younger people that are probably listening in, or even an executive could pick a lesson or two from how you have done it with your interns, with your millennials, with the
I think, first of all, I identify as a millennial.
Yes.
You know.
Now I want to...
So I think millennials are getting a bad rep.
Okay.
I think millennials are getting a bad rep, and even Gen Zs are getting a bad rep in terms of what is expected of them in the workforce. I think the first aspect is of communication is understanding the audience. You need to be able to understand what they like, what turns them on, what disappoints them, how are they motivated. So being able to understand those things, being able to look at people as people and not just as titles, I think is really important. And really getting to the humanity of everyone. If you're able to get to that level, then it's quite easy to then send on the message. The other thing that that leaders fail to do when speaking to younger people, to millennials or to Gen Z, is we fail to endear ourselves to the people that we speak to. We feel that we are separate from them. We feel that they don't understand, or yet if you're able to sort of step away from your either high horse, whatever you're on, and try and really get to the bottom of things, then you will find that it's actually easy to. And if you understand what someone wants, what motivates them, and how what disappoints them, what disappoints person A might be different. What disappoints person B, someone might not take very well to a stand talking to. You might not like, people. No one likes to be shouted at. People do not like, so all of those different things, once you're able to learn those things and be curious to get to know the people that you're speaking to, then it becomes much easier to communicate.
You spoke about endearments, and you reminded me, we had a visit from the managing director of ABSA, and he had his team lead, I think is the head of culture, who was explaining some of the things they have done for the millennials. And you'd be shocked at what the extent they have gone to endear. And they've done things like movie nights, popcorn in the office, some games here and there, just to understand them. Have you done something similar, even at Jumia, or in your experience as a leader?
Yes, so we do our best to try and make the environment that people work in conducive to just work in, most times a lot of work has... the way that people approach work creates a lot of stress. It creates conditions that maybe people work long hours, they don't see their family. You'll find that most of the time, the people that you spend most of your time with are the people that you spend time at work. Because at home, you're at home for breakfast, then you leave and you come back home for dinner, then you sleep. And then in the weekend, you're out. So you'll find that the people that you spend most of your time with are going to be people at work. So if that's going to be the case and you're going to make it a good time, then it's important for it to be a productive way, not productive, but it's important for it to be for the place to be hospitable, for a place to be. So there's a lot of initiatives that we take on to try and make sure that people interact on a human level.
Yes.
We have our HR goes a long way to incorporate so many interesting, fun things into the workplace. There's theme days, dress down Fridays, we eat together. So all of those things really help sort of break the ice and make it easy to work with people. Exactly.
Okay. Well, actually, that got me thinking of the first point, because you're trying to help us demystify what effective leadership is, and you began by communication and making sure that your team hears you, but not just hears you, understands you, and then I chipped in there and distracted you. So you wanted to go ahead to your second point.
Yes, so making sure your team hears you, before you make sure your team hears you, you need to make sure you hear your team.
Oh, yes.
You need to make sure that, I feel like most of the time, you go into a meeting. If you go into a meeting and only one person is speaking, then it's not really a meeting. It could have been an email. So if you need to go into a meeting and have some sort of exchange, you set an agenda of this is the goal that you hope to achieve by this meeting. You have an exchange, then you have action items, and you have some sort of structure. I feel like that will really help towards getting us towards a more common goal. Yeah. The second point that I had for good leadership is you need to be a collaborator. You need to be someone that is able to work with other people. Most leaders, not most leaders, some bad leaders think all their job is to give instruction and then go away and come back and get results. But a collaborator is someone that is able to nurture, to identify and nurture the strengths of others, put them first, is able to help put different people from varied backgrounds together in a space to achieve a common goal. A good collaborator is able to utilize people's strengths to cover up other people's weak points, and challenges. A good collaborator helps drive the vision. It helps create the momentum that is really important for cooperation towards achieving a particular target. So that's the second value that I really think a good leader should encompass.
Yes, and I know that part of team building is really trying to get a team to function even without you, and as part of your expansion at Jumia. But I also know that you've done other work elsewhere in other companies. So for this collaboration, how exactly do you get young people to partner or collaborate with other teams that are actually outside Kampala? Do you have systems?
Yes, so we have systems, we have routines,
meetings.
We have sub leadership. So the way for example, the sales teams that we have across the country, the way the sales team is set up, we have regional leaders who are regional managers who are employees of the company. Then we have a central team that sits in the Kampala office that manages performance, manages onboarding, manages engagement and issue resolution. But then in each district of the country, each city where we have JForce agents, we have what we call city captains, who are JForce agents that are basically in charge of the country. So our leadership is decentralized in that way, that every place has their own sort of way of doing things. But generally, you have a regional manager, then you have a city captain, and each city captain has team leaders, then under the team leaders you have agents. So there should be an effective way for agents to communicate to team captains. There should be an effective way for team captains to communicate to their city captains to communicate to the regional leader to communicate to the central team, agents to communicate to the central team. There should be a very clear 360 channel where we know that everyone can see and be transparent over what's going on. So we have routines in place, we have daily routines, we have weekly routines, we have monthly routines that are established and continuously evolve to meet a particular target. Sometimes, for example, during campaigns, during Black Friday, anniversary, we try and build the team and boost the team, so there's a lot of more robust action that's taking place in such a space. Other than that, generally, as the management of the department, we also have regular check-ins with each other. We have one-on-ones with team. So there are so many different ways that we work to sort of ensure that at least the leadership of the department in the different across the different levels is sort of on top of it.
So it's clear that at least you have systems that are in place to protect the company or the setup, or to ensure that it's run. I want to bring back the discussion to the leadership that we're talking about and the different approaches, and sort of pick from those to explain to any listener or any viewer out there that has no idea on how to create a team and how to even build a diverse and inclusive team. And I know that as manager or as expansion manager, you've had such a huge task to go out there and build a team. I wanted to know how you approach it, how you do it. Before you get into the thick and thin of that, we usually have a culture at the Fat Talks, and we like you to mention one truth and two lies.
Oh, okay.
And then we invite our audience both on Twitter Spaces and on Smart TV to tell us which was the truth and which was a lie.
Okay.
So tell us,
one truth and two lies.
You don't have to tell us. Yes, don't tell us that this is the truth. Just give us the statement, and then we shall decipher which of those statements is true and which one is lie.
So my first statement is I tried to do PLE in P6.
You tried?
To do PLE in P6.
Okay. Okay.
My second statement is I was the first in my class in P7. And my third statement is I have never been a vegetarian for 4 years.
You have been.
A vegetarian for 4 years. I'm a reformed vegetarian.
You are a reformed vegetarian. Okay. So our audience, I guess those are the questions as you had them. One, he tried to do PLE in primary 6. PLE is primary leaving examination. So that means he attempted the examination before he was a candidate. The second is that he was the first in his primary 7 class. And then the third is that he has been a vegetarian for 4 years. So please do the poll, feel free to comment, to tweet, to share on the Twitter, to type and tell us which one you think is true, which one you tell you think is a lie, and later we shall what the results.
Hope I can remember my lie.
I will read them to you. So yes, so back to building the team. I know you have great experience in building a team, and I imagine it's quite some work for an effective leader. So hopefully as you talk about any other elements of effective leadership that you could have left out, you talk about communication and collaboration, you could also chip in how to build a diverse and inclusive team.
Okay, I'll just note the rest of the qualities and then move to the aspects. Okay. So one of the qualities I think it also has to be building a team, the diverse team. Openness is quite important for a team. I think it's important for someone to be open-minded and not closed, because a lot of the times entrepreneurs, there's a difference between being an entrepreneur and being a team leader, a leader. Entrepreneurs maybe have a solution for one particular problem, one particular solution to the problem, and they don't like to look at other ways of doing something similar, or they don't like to have other opinions interact, which is really good to keep you focused. But I feel like openness is important to help bring more ideas and sort of encourage the collaboration that will lead to a more diverse team. Then the other one that I think is really important is strategic thinking. Strategic thinking seems like an easy word, but I think it's great. It's important to understand, to know that a leader is able to think about how to do and what to do when. Like, I feel like for me that's how I can define strategic thinking. What to do when, how to do something, what is the thing that you want to do, and when to do it. So you might have the right solution to a problem, but you deploy it either too early or too late, or you deploy it, or you might have a way of dealing with something, but you don't use the right person. You don't use the right. So strategic thinking is how do you make sure all these things, different things align to help you get to your goal.
Awesome. And speaking of what to do, I think it's time that we go to take a break, because we like to have breaks for you to stand, to stretch, to take a glass of water. So let's just take a 2-minute break, and then we'll be back into the space. to the FAT Talks. Today we're talking about leadership styles. We're exploring different leadership approaches, and we have none other than Mr. Shakib Nsubuga, who is the head of expansion Jumia now. Earlier we were just talking about his experience, qualities of an effective leader, and he told us that you have to be a good communicator, you have to be a good collaborator, you have to be very open and very strategic in what you do. And I really hope you're enjoying this on Future Spaces and on Smart 24 TV. I'm also really informed that Smart 24 is also broadcasting this live on their Twitter handle. So please do share, do log in, do comment. Thank you very much for being with us. So back to you, Shakib.
Yes.
I hope you were able to stretch and take a glass of water and get into an exciting part. So before we broke up, we were talking about how to build a diverse and inclusive team. And I know that you experienced in June. Maybe you could also share your previous experience elsewhere. What does it take to build a team and to make it as diverse and as inclusive as possible?
I think, thank you so much for defining what a diverse and inclusive team is. As a diverse and inclusive team, it looks like a group of people from different backgrounds, from different walks of life, with inclusive meaning that people that are from backgrounds that are considered to be vulnerable groups or people that need maybe are included, and they're able to share ideas, they're able to contribute to success, and they're able to be remunerated in a fair manner. So building a team like that, what that looks like, is a number of things. One thing we realize is that most people hire people that are similar to them. Because when you're going into an interview, when you look at a CV, you look, first of all, if you don't have what they call most of us have what they call a selection bias. So we're going to look at people from schools that we went to the same school. And that's the pool of people that you're going to maybe start from. Or people in similar social classes or similar club, or people that share similar interests. Maybe I'm into football, I'm only going to hire people. And we don't do it implicitly, we don't go out looking at that, but those qualities stand out to us, and we sort of align with them strongly, and subconsciously we get a bias in our head.
So you find that after several decisions, all the people that you have picked or that you have had seem to be sharing
very similar, exactly,
in common.
Exactly.
And now you're telling us to get out of that box and think diverse.
Yes.
Think different.
So how do you think diverse? How do you think different? The first thing is to be able to explore your biases. To be able to ask yourself, and the only way you can do that is by really being honest and vulnerable with yourself, and also creating a space with other people to be honest and vulnerable with them, to understand, like, really what do I select for unconsciously? Am I only hiring people from my tribe? Like, what happens when I meet someone from my tribe and they apply for a job? When I see, if I'm called Nsubuga, which is my name, and I see an Okelo, am I going to have something pop up in my mind that's going to stop me from not even, because I won't say I'm not Okelo because it's not Nsubuga, but yes, something pops up in your mind that sort of justifies why this other person is better than the person that you're looking at. So to help that, first of all, you have to explore and expose your biases. How you do that is, like I've said, have someone that you can bounce ideas off. Secondly, it's important to have an objective recruitment tool or an objective recruitment strategy that does not look at personality traits and does not take consideration of those. So how you do that is have what we call, if you practice what we call evidence-based recruitment. So you recruit based on someone providing evidence of their ability to execute a particular task or to meet a particular sort of rate that you've created.
So you know how the CVs usually say, I can work well under pressure. So you want people to give evidence. I
need evidence of you working well under pressure. I need evidence of you being a collaborator. I need evidence of you being a good communicator. No. Now, evidence can be testimony. It can be a referee that can do that for you. But you find that even some of those biases also go all the way down to referees. Yes. So the other way that you can look at evidence-based recruitment is by doing an assessment tool, do a test. If you want to do if you want to hire an analyst, give them some raw data, show you how they analyze. If you want to hire a graphic designer, have a look at their portfolio and let that portfolio speak for itself. Like, the evidence should be able to speak on behalf of the candidate without the candidate being there. Because once the candidate is in the room, you won't know that she's a lady, so you won't be biased against her. You won't know that either she's pregnant. You won't know that the guy is a non-Muslim and you're a Muslim. You won't know. So all of those things come out, and when you hire them, you're able to have a team. Then the other thing that happens in teams, even if you hire from diverse backgrounds, you might not create a space for people to feel included. Now, what that means, what does that mean? That you can hire and you create a work culture that does not encourage authenticity.
Yes.
You create a work culture that, for example, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not good. Maybe there are places where people wear uniforms and everyone has come dressed the same. So we all look exactly the same. So if we all look exactly the same, if there are some qualities that the management selects for that are not clear, that don't align well with me, then I might have to reduce myself to fit into whatever image the management wants. And that means that there are aspects of myself that I'm going to have to mute to fit in. Anytime someone feels like the aspects of themselves they have to mute to fit into a particular workspace, then it's very clear that that workspace is not an inclusive workspace.
Okay. Well, speaking of inclusivity, I know it becomes very critical because every other day people are more and more diverse, and as you mentioned, the millennials, the Gen Z, the older guys, they do things completely different. And I thought you would pick an example of how you've done it as a team. What exactly have you put in the workforce to make it more inclusive? If I give an example, I know some offices have put chilling, resting areas, and everyone has access to that. They've given them opportunity to order whatever they want. I don't know what you have done differently.
So I'll speak to inclusivity. I'll speak to maybe because inclusivity is a long-term battle. It's not something that you win overnight. Sometimes policy addresses inclusivity. So you can say, for example, I worked in Safe Border for about 3 years, and in Safe Border, you would know that 99.9% of the people that ride borders are men.
Yes.
And so just by saying we welcome women to ride borders, you might think that that policy is a strong enough policy to include women. But unless you address the barriers that stop women from participating in the border industry, you cannot be inclusive. So what we tried to do then is to figure out, to be able to understand what are the different barriers that are preventing women from participating in actively and effectively participating in the border industry. And obviously, a lot of it is to do with mindset, to do with in Kampala, women don't ride bikes, but if you go to places in the east, if you go to places in the north, women ride bikes. It's very normal. They ride borders, they ride bikes.
They're the lead riders.
Exactly.
The women are riding out there than the men.
Yeah.
Very awesome way of including women.
Yes, so they do ride bikes. So if you look at there are financial barriers to be tackled when it comes to inclusion. There are mindset barriers. There's access in terms of just knowing how to write. So we formed a group, a task force that was responsible for at least bringing more female riders into the system. And I left as it has just initiated, but I'm very proud to say that it has had a big impact. There's quite a growth in the number of women that have actually taken bike riding as a professional, as a profession.
Yes.
And so that's just an example of how to make a space more inclusive.
I know, and right now I really want to also include our viewers and listeners in Twitter Spaces. So if if you have had an opportunity to be ridden or driven by a woman with Uber or Safe Border or Safe Car, or your own some unique experience, please do share with us. We want to know how the women have been included, or what you consider as inclusive leadership in your experience. Let this be a conversation. Let's hear from you. What do you consider as inclusivity? What do you consider as diverse? Share an experience and we'll pick up on those in a bit. Maybe as we continue, earlier on, Shakib shared with us one truth and two lies, and the things that he said three statements. One is that he tried to do primary living examinations in his primary 6, a year before he was actually a candidate. And two is that he was the first in his primary 7 class. He came top of his class. And three is that he has been a vegetarian for 4 years. So please tell us which of these is true and which of these is a lie, or which of these is one truth and possibly 2 lies. But all will be shared later on, and we'll continue. Thank you for being with us. A special shout out to her women who have really been behind today's talk with Shakib. They are the sponsors behind it. They are very passionate women doing excellent things out there. Shakib, back to you. Now, you mentioned having been at Safe Border, having been at Junior, and you have quite memorable experiences in your leadership and being manager. Now, I know there could be several experiences, but you could have one one that you thought really made an impact. And then before then, I will also reveal what one of your big fans told me as a memorable experience. But tell me, what comes to mind when you hear that question?
When I hear what made what,
yes, share a memorable experience in your leadership journey that you believe made an impact.
I think I'll speak to Safe Border. Before joining Safe Border, they did not have a well-being department, a driver well-being department. I feel like after joining Safe Border, I joined as operations innovations manager, and my task was to figure out how to make operations, to bring more innovation in the operation department, to make it more efficient, so that spend less or work more. And I'm very proud to have been one of the people to start the driver well-being department. So I was in charge of the driver well-being department. That department was looking after driver well-being. Socially, we had a lot of classes that they learned. So we had to do like first aid classes, English lessons, financial literacy classes. We introduced savings, introduced loans, we introduced health camps for drivers to get their health checked for free. We introduced school fees, like the drivers were able to pay school fees using their earnings. So I think these are something I'm really proud of as achievements under my leadership in a space like that. But you find that even after I left, even after I leave, there's still a really growing community that benefits from the driver well-being department.
I know, and speaking of driver well-beings, you know, you've just reminded me of a very important fact. We were investing in one of the trainings we've attended, and someone unveiled the truth, not a lie, that border cyclists in Uganda, close to 90% actually have their own housing, their own homes that they own. So they have bought the land, they have constructed a house, wherever it is around Kampala. And yet, 90% of people in the corporate world or people under employment are renting.
Hey, you're shouting.
I'm shouting. I'm shaking some tables. I'm very sorry if I'm shaking. Yeah, I am also still renting, but I am challenged when you speak of driver well-being, driver wellness, looking out for their mental health, their saving capacity. I believe your significance or your impact could have stretched far beyond you could have imagined. Many more border people are now able to own land and own their own homes because of your leadership. Maybe a snippet, as I promised earlier when I put out your poster and said, I'm going to host one of your former employees or team members, and I don't know if she wants me to send a shout out, but she was really appreciative of the experience she had with you back then at Junior. And when I asked her what really stood out with your leadership, she said that in your time you introduced a culture where I think every once a week, everyone in the team has to share social media experience that stood out for them. So some would share TED Talks, others would share a news highlight, others would share a video or a letter, something. And it kept as a culture within the workplace. And she said that she was very edified at the level of knowledge that would come to the meeting room that one day a week, and she always looked forward to sharing whatever she found. So while you're chatting on social media, swiping, you find something and you can't wait to share it with your team. Well, for our viewers and our listeners, I really hope that you are taking notes. Do not sit on this knowledge alone, but share it. When you share, make sure you share something that builds others. It's not Lugambo, it is not Wahala, it is not
inspiring.
Yes. So back to you. To you. And what strategies do you use to foster culture? I mean, speaking about culture, what strategies? Well, given one, you put in place such a tradition. But I want to focus on what you said earlier. Excuse me. What strategies do you use to foster a culture of collaboration and open communication with your team? What is that home?
Okay, thank you. So I'll share some that I've learned along the way. The first, if you're going to collaborate and speak to people, you have to get to know them as people.
Yes.
Like, you have to get to know your teammates, your subordinates, your leader as a human being, as get to know them beyond their title is what I say. And beyond the title is understand the person's personal family dynamics. Ask them, figure out what they like. Are they a morning person? Do they hate? Do they like pizza or ice cream? Like all these different things. What do they do outside of work?
Yes.
These are things that are really important, because these are things that we actually care about more than work. That if I was not paid for my job, I would not do the thing of my job. But if I was not paid for if I was not paid to go to the cinema, I would still actually pay to go to the cinema.
Correct.
So getting to know people and each other outside of work, as human beings, is really important outside of the titles. Then another thing that we really share that we do is we have.
So when you say you want to know your entire team, you know them in and out.
I think people, human beings, like there's so much to learn. But what I know that every time I put myself out there to learn, and the best way you can get to know someone is by telling them about yourself. So when you share about yourself and you're more vulnerable about yourself, then you give the other people the courage to share, because they take you off the pedestal. So I feel like sometimes leaders are put on a pedestal of perfection, yes, and or whatever expectations, or there's a big gap that is. So if you're able to create spaces to be vulnerable with your team, to show them, people say a good leader never shows weakness. I don't think that is true.
So
I think I need to show my weakness.
I was asking you what's your weakness.
I need to show my weakness to my team, because I need my team to back me up.
Okay.
I need my team to back me up in the spaces that I'm not able to get to, because when I hire someone, I like to hire people that are better than me in particular aspects. Okay. I need to hire people that are, if I'm a salesperson, if I'm in a sales department, I would like to hire all the salespeople that are better than me, because they are going to train my team better than I'm going to train them. So I get to know people in that sense. Have frequent team building initiatives. And team building is not just take the team and take them to the beach and have a drink, whatever. I think team building goes beyond. These days we have really good facilitators that are available for any company to hire, to come and first of all have a needs assessment. What is lacking in the team? What elements need to be made stronger? How can we? And they have so many what we call gamifications that they can do to help people think of things in a new way. So I think that's very important. Then another one is identify and amplify your team strengths. So being able to know what does Brian bring to the table, what does Shakib bring to the table, what is Brian good at, what does Shakib need to improve on. So having those really conversations around team strengths. There's something that I learned is you need to congratulate in public,
yes,
and
rebuke in private,
reprimand in private. So I feel like those are things that really help. And then create intentional room for 360 feedback. Now, 360 feedback is not just the leader telling the leadee, the lead,
yes.
That's
The leader
as creating a new word.
It's a cool word, I like it.
Yes, the leader telling the lead what to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think it needs to be 360. So you need to have feedback from myself as Shakib. You need to have feedback from the people that I lead, the people that I report to, and the people that are parallel.
That are equal
to me as well. So you need to get, if you really want to know about me and about my team, you need to know about the people that I lead, the people that lead me, and the people that are my peers. So that's what we call 360 feedback. So if you create room for 360 feedback, then you're able to know as a leader, okay, what is working, what is not working. Because it's I feel like it's like a living organism. Like you have to feed it. You have to know that today this is not working.
Yes.
Let us try this today and get it going. And finally, I think the last point about collaboration and open communication I want to share is you have to lead by example.
Correct.
And leading by example means you need to be able to ask the team to be collaborative. You need to give them a chance. You can't come and dictate policy. You know, if it's time for ideation, if it's time for analysis, if it's time for evaluation of a project, if you can include different aspects, different team members, then it will be much. The idea will be taken up because there was a to come up with a strategy. So those for me, I think, are really very few points that
I know,
can help.
And speaking of that, here you speak of these things that you have done to sort of foster a culture. Now, I know culture is not built on it. It's something you do every other day. What challenge have you had with ensuring the consistency in that collaboration, that open communication, that 360 approach? For every meeting, you check and say, how did people respond?
So, I'll be very honest. At times, as leaders, we can be complacent. At times, you can look at the bigger picture and you forget about the small details. Or you can fixate on the small details and forget about the bigger picture. So, when, for example, the target has been set for a quarter, for half a year, and you focus on how are we going to achieve this big target, you're not able to break down this sort of strategy into small, actionable steps that can be followed by every single person, then unfortunately your vision is going to be left on the table. So the challenges that we face in collaboration a lot of the time in creating these structures, a lot of the time people can get complacent. People can be focused on the wrong thing at the wrong time or the right thing at the wrong time. And what you do with this to sort of help you not get caught up in this is make sure that you have like checkpoints, frequent checkpoints. It will be a weekly checkpoints. You could have we have weekly check-ins in our teams. Yes. We have checkpoints, and then you have other people. You have transparency to make sure that my goals are aligned with the goals of everyone else around the team, and it's clear what my goals are. It's clear what action I'm taking towards achieving these goals, and the results of these are also very clear. When you have that transparency and that clarity, then it becomes very easy to actually.
Well, speaking of transparency, speaking of consistency, speaking of targets, it goes without saying that workplaces always have conflict. You're going to have people that you disagree with. You're going to have people that don't believe in your style of leadership. You're going to have people that don't think they're adding value think they're adding value. So how have you had the conflict and disagreements among your team members?
So I'll speak to conflict, and before I talk about maybe how we utilize it, I want to talk about the importance of conflict. I think
conflict is
some conflict. There's what we call productive conflict. Because the opposite of conflict, that is, someone might think it's collaboration and cooperation, but there's another bad opposite of conflict called apathy, where people are just waiting just because Shakib said something. Even if I've made a mistake, no one is going to come and say, but I think you are wrong. So I think it's important, because it's important to have a bit of friction, because that bit of friction, if you look at, if you think about in the making of fire, to get that spark, you need to have some friction. If you don't have friction, I would not be sitting in the chair, I would be gliding off. So even in a company, it's important to have a little bit of friction, in the sense that where does that friction come from? The friction comes from us having different perspectives on the same thing. So if you don't have conflict, if you have some friction in a company, chances are your company is not really diverse. Everyone is coming from the same point, looking at the same point of view. If you have no one looking at your back, well, you're also in the front. If something is coming at your back, all of us are going to fall in the same way. So that's the first thing I want to talk about conflict. I think a lot of us try to neutralize conflict, but for me, sometimes I like to see what comes out of it, to explore it in a safe space. I think conflict is bad when it starts to affect someone's self-esteem, someone's productivity, someone's mental health, physical health. People might start fighting over a particular thing. So for until it gets to that, I think I would love creating space for us to talk about why do we disagree.
That's what I hear you saying. For the leader, they should be able to identify positive conflict
and create spaces. Yes,
people to actually speak up when they disagree, or to have a different opinion, or to air out a different opinion.
Yes.
Then what do you do when you have
when it's gone the other way?
Yes, when it's gone.
So when it's gone the other way, I think the first thing is to be able, as a leader, to be able to notice that things are going the other way. So you need to be attentive. Being attentive, you need to be a present, active listener to your team. Active listening is a technical term, but I think people misuse it sometimes. But it really talks about focusing on not listening to the person fully and being present, and not focusing on what you're going to respond to. And taking in their body language, taking in what they're not saying, the spaces between the spaces between the words, the silences between the words is really important. So firstly, being attentive. Secondly, being neutral. I think it's important to be neutral as a leader. Even if someone is clearly wrong, you don't want to be seen to take sides in an argument that is going. Maybe argument is even the wrong word, but you need to be neutral and objective. So looking at all sides of a discussion, you need to look at all sides of a discussion in a way that is impartial, that allows you to really be impartial. The other thing is you need to want to understand the root causes of a lot of these conflicts. Like why is it that every Thursday Brenda is having words with Thomas or something? Like, is it just this, or is there something that's underlying before?
Yes.
So you need to do some research, talk to Brenda on her own, talk to Thomas on his own, talk to other people around, gather evidence, and then really go and find the underlying cause of
Actually,
this.
so some bosses may call Brenda and call Thomas into the room and say, so Brenda, tell me, Thomas says this, Thomas tell me, Brenda says this.
Something like that, if there's a power dynamic between the two.
Yes.
If maybe Thomas is subordinate to Brenda, and Thomas reports to Brenda in terms of hierarchy. They might not have anything to say, because if I say something, I'll lose my job, especially in your space. Yeah. So those are different dynamics that need to be considered when trying to resolve conflict. And then the final thing that I would like to add to that, two things. Number one, well, sorry, three things. Number one, you need to be solution oriented. Like when a problem comes, yes, it's important for us to find the root cause and find the pattern of blame, but it's more important for us to find a solution to the problem. So how can you be more solution oriented? And the actions that you take, can they be more solution oriented? And then the other thing that is really good is you need to be able to establish a common goal. How do we create a goal that I have buy-in, Brenda has buy-in, Thomas has buy-in, Brian has buy-in? Because if we have a goal that you don't have buy-in because we're not sharing the profits with you appropriately, you're going to work and you're going to create reasons for unhealthy conflict.
So that means you create particular principles that everyone will be driven to or driven to.
Yes, but goals. Yes.
So
all of us, yes. This is what we are all going for, and we're going for this. This is the reason why all of us have to go for this, because you benefit like this. This is how you benefit. This is how you benefit. This is how I benefit, and this is how the company benefits.
You know,
setting that out is.
It says, how can two work together unless they agree?
Exactly.
So they all work towards a particular goal. Well, we'll be taking another 2 minutes break just to allow you to stretch your legs, stand up, health break. We like to be healthy and we're mindful of being healthy. And as we take the break, please remember to send your comments on the one truth and the two lies. He told us that he attempted to PLE exam in 6, and he was the first in his primary 7. He came top of his class. And he has also been vegetarian for 4 years. So which of these is the one truth and which one is the lie? We'll be back in 2 minutes. So please stay here. Don't go anywhere. hope you are able to enjoy yourself, stretch a little bit, to take a glass of water, but most importantly, to think clearly on what we have been saying. We're talking about leadership approaches, leadership styles, different styles, and we have none other than Shakib Nsubuga from Junior. He's the head of expansion. He's been telling us amazing things, what he has done, what his experience has been. And here at the Fat Talks, Leadership Institute, we really like to focus on leadership. We bring you leaders, we bring people that have done real things in the real world to share with us their experience. So please do remember that today's particular show is sponsored by none other than hardworking women. Doing amazing things out there. So shout out to all of you guys. Shakib, back to you. Before we broke off, we wanted to talk about, conflict and how you're managing conflict or disagreements among the team members. Now I want to go down into, in your opinion, what is the most important skill for a leader?
So, I've been thinking about this for some time, and I think the most important skill for a leader is being teachable. So being teachable for me is not just learning. You need to be able to learn and unlearn. So to unlearn the things that no longer serve you, and learn the new dynamic ways of looking at it. So when we started, we were talking about, why millennials and Gen Zs are difficult in workplaces. But that's simply because the people that are supervising them have not been able to unlearn.
They are rigid.
Yes, exactly.
They still have the old thinking,
the old mentality.
Order.
And the way that the world works in any sphere of leadership, in business, in health, in organizations, in school, in your home, in your family, as a leader, you need to be able to learn what is new and relevant about the people that you're leading, about the goals that you're trying to set for this leadership, about what is important about generally, you need to be able to learn so many new skills. You've seen right now, there's the advent of AI that has come to take on business. How can it be incorporated into our day-to-day work? How can it help you become a better leader? How can it help you be more efficient, more dynamic? Now, if you look at AI as a threat, then unfortunately, you're not going to learn how it, and other people take advantage of it are going to really help, are going to go ahead of you. So, as much as there are so many qualities of a leader, personally, I think learning and unlearning, being teachable. You have to be able to learn new things. You have to be able to unlearn things that are not serving you and the team.
So it all begins in the mind.
I think so.
You know, you say that everything starts and ends with the leader. Even the leaders that we have in the country, it's really starts and ends with the individual. So if you're able to lead yourself, if you're able to have some sort of discipline, some target, some sort of career direction, or generally, then you begin to fail as a leader. And Shakib, focus, learn, unlearn, and relearn is the most important thing for a leader. So, Shakib, I know you told us you worked with Self-Water, you worked with Junior, you worked with so many other places. I imagine you faced challenges. Because we've been thinking nice things only. Now let's get into the challenges, because as a leader, we also want to face challenges and face them with positivity. So give us an example of a challenge you faced while building a team and how you overcame it. Some people have started businesses and they have not lived to month 5, not even year 5, but month 5.
They say what 90% of businesses you
yes, but
so
we choose to think different. So how have you overcome the challenges you faced?
A challenge that I wanted to talk about was establishing a remote working sales team across the country. So sales is about self-drive. It's about having so we have people across the country every day who wake up to go and sell on behalf of Jumia. So establishing that team to be a dynamic team, be self-driven, to have minimum supervision, because I cannot go to every district and be at all the places at the same time. To be at a team that you can that you can trust to deliver on results. So that was the challenge that was set up when I started the expansion team. Now we had sales agents across the country already, but they were not fully utilized. They were not like working as a team essentially. It was not very easy for us to drive our targets in that way. So what we did, first of all, we had to do a lot of learning. We had to look at the leadership that we have, the sub-leadership that we have in all these in the different categories. We had to get rid of some people, hire the right people, get new people, do capacity building, get everyone. We had to get everyone to come to Kampala to do training, and then we had to do continuous training with the leadership. We had to provide tools and resources for these people to actually work. So when you're working remotely, we know that most of our leaders, they may not have laptops, they have smartphones. How can they work on smartphones? Before, we expected everyone to have the items on Google, on box files, but we're not going to see box files of all the country.
It's now paperless.
So now let's move to Google Sheets. People are not used to having meetings over the phone and then being real meetings. Let's move to Google Hangouts. So utilizing tools and resources available to us, establishing clear routines, ensuring that teams are built with the capacity, encouraging transparency, doing that continuously, and with support from our core central team, we're able to create a really dynamic sales team that is now currently contributing up to 20% of the NMV that we collect as a company.
So you guys you're really learning and unlearning and adapting as you move.
Yes.
So imagine that every member of Junior is able to use the smartest of phones, the most complicated of
I think
systems. You really make it simple and friendly.
So I think the expansion team, specifically our speak to expansion team, the agent that we're looking at, the simple is better.
Yeah.
Like, we're not looking for the most complicated stuff. We're looking for the basic, most simple thing that someone that has come out of university or someone who has gone to university can utilize and go and understand their sales targets. They can go and understand their routines. They can input a report and then come and have all of that collected centrally. So we try as much as possible to make things simple, because if something is simple, it can be scalable. Yeah. Because you will find that what works in Arua does not work in Gulu. What works in Gulu does not work in Masaka. What works in Masaka may not work in Barara. So what are the things that are similar in the different areas of operation, and what are the things that are different, and how do we work in that space?
Awesome. Very, very elaborate examples. Now, I wanted us to go back to your history. Right? We've spoken a lot about cultures, ideas, principles, what you believe makes an effective leader, how to build a team. Now, I wanted you to speak to the aspiring leaders, people that want to become leaders or want to develop their leadership skills. When did you first become a leader? When would you say you first became a leader?
I don't know. I was a
prefect.
Does that count?
Let's try and think outside school. Outside school.
Outside school, well, in university, I was so we're looking at. I've always liked working with people, helping people like achieve their potential. So I used to, as a third year, I used to help first years navigate, especially international students, navigate the different cultural dynamics that they're coming, the new school that they're coming into. My first job in Uganda, I worked for Kinetic Management Group, which is a sports and entertainment management company. And there we were tasked with managing artists and sports, the National Basketball League of Uganda as well. So in those places, they say either you're born a leader, you become a leader, or it is thrust upon you. So
So which was it?
It's a mix of the three.
It's in the deep end.
Yeah, I come from a big family as well. So as a big family, I'm a middle child. So I have my elders that are leaders. I have a troop of young that look up to me in particular.
So mediator.
Exactly. That's something that I've grown. So yeah, that's really how I honed my leadership. I think I was through being given opportunities to demonstrate my capabilities.
Yes.
And once I think you're given a responsibility of a project and you deliver on that project, then the person is able to entrust you to do more. And through doing that repetitively, you're able to have some sort of self-discovery and understand, oh, listen, actually, I'm able to organize this. Or I think people listen when I say this. Or I'm able to drive this particular target. So continuously being able to do self-evaluation and take feedback from other people helped me understand, oh, what this that I'm doing is actually called leadership. So I didn't really know that that's what it was called, you know. So I sort of, let's say, stumbled into it. But the more I did it, the more I took it seriously, the more I learned. And any aspiring leaders out there,
yes.
For me, my advice is just, I think it's through continuous learning. I think it's still something that really comes to play. Ask yourself, which leaders inspire you? When you think about leaders, who do you think about? Who's the person who comes to the bottom of your tongue and you mention that person? Where does that person inspire you as a leader? And then also, interestingly, who do you think is not a good leader? So it's important for you to have the comparison of both. Yes. What makes a good leader? What makes a bad leader? So it's because sometimes you'll find that, maybe in our politics or, in our homes, there's people that you have been given leadership that you think maybe do not deserve the leadership they have. Why do you think they don't deserve? What are they not doing? So noting those things, and then ones that are doing the good stuff. Why do you think Nelson Mandela is a good leader? Why do you think Malcolm X is a good leader? Why? What are those things, those qualities that you're looking to find? What draws you to them? And there's a lot of great literature about great leaders and also bad leaders. One thing I realized is both of them form amazing stories.
So you read all types.
It's good to read bad leaders. You read what happened to Mussolini, what happened to and also good and bad is perspective, right? Every person is a hero of their own story. So it's also important to check what perspective is the literature being written from. So I really recommend reading. It's important to just read about leadership. There's psychology about leadership, there's science about leadership.
That you love to read, recommend.
I can't think of one. There are so many. I read Nelson Mandela's Freedom. I think that's one of the books that inspired me.
Yeah.
To really take responsibility for my circumstances and not
blame the system.
Blaming the system is not going to. It's not going to. You can blame the system, but it's not going to solve it in the long run. But there's other books on leadership in terms of psychology of leadership. There's books on developing positive habits. So go and read what inspires you. There's so much literature. Then the other thing I have is get a mentor. Find someone that you think is approachable, that is likened to you, that is within your grasp, and ask them to mentor you about leadership. There's a difference between a mentor and a coach. A coach tells you what to do. It tells you how to do what you want to do. A mentor tells you how they do what they're doing, and then exactly. Exactly. So get a mentor. And then finally, the last piece of advice I have to readers is feedback. Most people don't like feedback. They don't ask for feedback. So when you're living an interaction, as much as you can do self-evaluation, go and ask the person, how was this interaction? Was this a positive interaction for you? Is there something you think I can improve? And, obviously, take feedback with a pinch of salt.
Yes.
Not all feedback is actionable, but if you just get into the spirit and the discipline of taking feedback, eventually, if you take enough feedback from the right sample space, you'll get the right actionable bits to help you.
You mentioned how you used to mentor from back in class and you'd go to trust your students. Are you still having mentoring?
I love mentoring.
You have a mentor yourself. How do you go about
I love mentoring. I have one current mentor. I think, first of all, I used to have someone I thought was a mentor, but I did not know that they are mentors. So there are people that you look up to, but unless you come and ask someone, can you please be my mentor? It's like in a relationship. You can like someone, but until you go and have the conversation of can we be boyfriend, girlfriend, it's just going to be. So I think it's very important to be intentional about your mentor-mentee relationship. Set aside, go and have a conversation and let the person know that you would like for them to spend some time with you. Figure out exactly what the time looks like. Is it an hour a week? Is it a day a month? Is it whatever way you want to have it? It's important for you to be intentional. Create clear boundaries, because sometimes mentors might want to to go into things that are none of their business, and they can want to come and give you so much, like they can come and like give you advice as if the life you're living is their life, but also maybe mentees might not know how to ask particular questions.
even approach
Exactly.
how to identify someone they think
It's good to be a mentor.
look
So
up to?
if you look up to someone, send them an email. I think sometimes text messages might be a bit, unless you have a personal relationship with that person. If you don't know the person and you come and ask them in text, it might not be the easiest.
Yes, it's not
way.
appropriate.
Yes, so try and make it a bit official, a bit professional. Ask, clearly state what you're looking for. So my mentor currently is also, you don't have to have one mentor.
Yes.
You can have different mentors for different aspects, because not one person is good at everything. So you can have a mentor for your spirituality mentor, you can have a mentor for sales, you can have a mentor for different aspects of your life. You have a right to seek mentorship in as many people as possible.
Speaking of mentorship, I'm reminded from our earlier discussion, we spoke of team building and effective leadership. What role does empathy play for the effective leader in team building?
Okay, so empathy, first we define empathy. Empathy is the ability to look and feel something from a different perspective. So that means it allows you to step into the shoes of others and see things from different perspectives. So it stops you from being what we call tunnel-visioned or narrow-minded.
Yes.
So it allows you to speak, for example, empathy. What empathy looks like, looking at the perspective, the point of view, when something goes right or when something goes wrong. Looking at the point of view of the customer. Why is the customer why does the customer feel as good or as bad as they feel? Or why does the customer representative feel or look as bad as they feel? Why is the sales agent acting in the way that they're doing? If you stay from your perspective, it might not be easy for you to grasp the entirety of the situation. But if you really go and step in the shoes of these people, and relation is not just sitting and asking questions, why did you do what you did? It's about going behind the veil and understanding the workings of the minds of the people that we're interacting with. What motivates them? How do they end up in circumstances and why? So what it does is it offers understanding of company dynamics and circumstances and allows for more inclusive approaches to resolving company issues. issues and achieving business goals. So I think it's.
Thank you very much. Well, empathy is really part of it. If you're a leader and you're sympathetic, you don't feel for your people, or you don't even have them at heart, then you want to wonder what type of leadership are you having. A leader is one that has followers. If you're a leader, you have no followers, then really you want to think twice about if you're leading at all. Well, I heard of something called Uketa. Uketa. What is Uketa, and what inspired you to make that as a course?
Okay, thank you for asking.
And to respond, please do remember to answer our poll on the one truth and two lies. And I know that we're really looking forward to your response. But also, if you have a question on the Twitter spaces, please do request to speak to Shakib here, or to text a question, and we'll read it out as a way of trying to involve each and every one. So back to you.
So thank you for
What's
asking. It's a learning platform. It's a web-based learning platform where coaches like myself upload different courses for everybody to take advantage of, to learn in their free time. These courses are paid for courses, and they really help democratize learning. So anyone can learn anything on Uketa. It's just a matter of having the right coaches to upload the courses, and also having the right audience to get to this. So myself, I have 2 courses on Uketa. The first course is on managing people. So basically, it goes through, it's about 6 modules. It goes through understanding your needs for the that you want to hire.
So they're like master classes.
They are master classes, but master classes prepared for the normal Ugandan. So there's different courses on financial literacy, there are courses on marketing, there are courses on social media marketing, there are courses on navigating conflict, there are courses on resilience. There are so many different. So the second part of this question is, why did I think it's important to be a part of this?
First of all, what's the course that you do?
The course I'm doing that I teach. I have 2 courses that I teach on Uketa. The first is managing people. So if you want to learn how to manage people, looking at different needs, how do you decide when you need to bring in people, how do you hire them, how do you retain them, how do you engage them, and how do you grow your teams. So it's a very, very intuitive course. It's about 6 modules. It takes each module is about 20 minutes, and it's really easy for you to go through. Then the second course that I have on Uketa is about finding a path. So there are so many times in our lives when we are stuck. We are stuck in a rut. We think we need to do something new with our lives, but we don't know how to get started. So this course is very simple course. It helps you understand your thinking. It helps you put your thoughts on paper. It helps you, when you go to the course, you'll be able to make particular decisions. At the end of the course, you should have a very clear plan of action with inputs, resources, timelines, and everything to allow you to get to where you need to be. Why do I think it's important to be a coach educator? I think one, it's great because it helps me and other coaches realize on the different skills that we have accumulated. Secondly, it provides the opportunity for us to pass on our information to other people, and also for me as a person to learn so many things on Uketa. So I really would like to thank the people that behind Uketa that have really created a platform that allows us to learn in the comfort of our homes. You don't have to go to school. You don't have to be in a particular area. You have to do is, decide what course you want. You pay for it, and you have it. And all the courses come with certificates that are certified by University of Uganda, which is the partner university that we work with. So you'll be able to have a certificate after you've completed the course, the past assessment, that can go and basically use this newfound knowledge.
Wow. Also, University of Uganda is out there making a difference and has partnered with amazing people doing a program called Uketa. Do it about. Sign up, get to listen to amazing Shakib here. Shakib, well, I'm prepared to wind up as we unveil which one is the one truth and which one is the one lie. Why do you really think it was important about managing teams? You know, we think about leadership styles. What are the different styles? What is effective? Why do you think this was important today? Just about listeners.
So why did I decide to do a course on managing teams, to start a course? As we had spoken before, Brian, the majority of Uganda, first of all, has the largest number of entrepreneurs, right? In terms of percentage. So many businesses. You'll find that, even if that's a really good superlative, you'll find that 90% of these businesses never make it to the first year. And when you do the research, you will find that the majority of the reasons why these businesses never make it past the first year is because in order for a business, for an entrepreneur to achieve whatever goal they have set out for them, they have to go beyond themselves. It's very hard to find a successful business that is run by one person, that has been able to scale and create enough job satisfaction, for the entrepreneur to feel successful. So I realized that one of the biggest problems that businesses have is, as an entrepreneur, someone might think just because I have this idea, I am the best person to grow and to do this idea and bring it to fruition. As a person, I have my limitations as an individual, but I can only unleash the power of my business by working and collaborating with other people. So I believe that the skill of managing other people and working and collaborating with other people is one of the most important skills that we need to master as Ugandans if we're going to really utilize and unlock the power and potential of entrepreneurship that is the backbone of this country.
You couldn't have said it any better. I really believe, personally, by the way, I also didn't say, I'm very passionate about leadership. And if there is one thing I like to also know is people. Now, as a leader, you really ought to know people, to feel for people, to heart for people, to think for people. Because everything you do every other day is that someone out there is having a better life, a better way to earn income, or a better service, a better healthcare, a better person altogether. Well, as we can tell us, Shakib, which one is the truth?
Do you want to guess?
Do I want to guess? I want to give someone in the audience an opportunity to guess. Maybe if you'd allow them to mute and speak. I don't know who wants to dare. Maybe the technical team. Do we have people that would like to ask Shakib a question directly as we prepare to come to the session today? So you could just raise your hand and about viewers on Smart 24. We've been speaking about leadership styles, we've been speaking about excellence, we've been speaking about managing teams, managing people, and did share wealth of knowledge and experience with us. So he had told us 3 segments that he tried to do one examination in P6, that he was top of his class in P7, and that he is a reformed vegetarian. He has been a vegetarian for the last 4 years. So which of these is true? I think he looks like a vegetarian.
What do vegetarians look like?
Did I fail on that? Because you said it with such passion that it seems true. I could be wrong, but for me that is the one truth. The two lies, but you could confirm which is true, which is false.
Drum roll. The only truth there is I was the first in PLE.
In your school?
Yeah.
I thought it was the whole of Uganda.
I did try to do PLE in P6, but I didn't get to the exams. So I think that's also false. I've never been a vegetarian. I love
the
it.
passion.
You can tell.
I can tell. I can tell. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for our viewers on Smart 24 Future Success. I wanted to speak directly, but this is the last shout out. We're here every Thursday. Fidelity Leadership Institute. We like to talk about leadership, like to provide ideas, excuse me, that are making a difference out there. So please do tune in next Thursday, same time, 4 p.m. For an chance experience. From us, Shakib, would you like to give a final message to any aspiring leader out there, anyone that is dreaming of managing a team?
Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you for having me. Thank you to Fat Talks. Thank you to Smart TV. Thank you to HAP. And thank you to Eketa Learning for this great collaboration. To anyone listening, to anyone watching, thank you so much for tuning in. I don't have much advice to give. I think if you want to learn more about what I do, you can go on to Eketa Learning. Just type UKETA. People to take you into the platform and to be able to interact with what we do. Other than that, thank you so much. Any aspiring leaders, please keep on grinding. The end might be far, but we still have a way to go, so don't give up.
Thank you very much. Well, me, Brian Kamau, host of today, and look forward to every opportunity to be part of this, to share knowledge, to meet awesome people.